to them about it.
Oh, didn't you have Michael with you? You were in what cancer?
No. It was last year, I think, when we went down, I don't remember, but oh, I know, it was last year we went to the flower show.
Okay.
We stayed at Eleanor's house and then we went to that Italian restaurant.
$53.53.
Oh, yes.
What?
You went back to that Italian restaurant. They had good food down there.
I'm not giving you any story about 1429
You're
Jackson.
gonna give me a story about whatever you'd like.
I don't just
I
share
don't
this,
know
but
it.
I'm sitting
You
there.
want the top of my head?
Looks like Eddie's.
Her
A
mind's
story
a
about
blank.
1429 Jackson Street?
I'll take
Just
any
tell them you used
stories.
to live there one time.
Where?
We used to live
That's
at,
mine.
How about a good news story?
I had started to write
Here, read the
a
comment
eulogy.
for him.
And,
Vincent?
yeah. And one of the things I remember from them telling me,
you have to let me know
Was
how
that-
beer and cookies is.
when Vincent was a young boy, junior high school maybe, when you guys got together, pooled your money and bought the record player,
Yeah, so,
am I right?
I don't remember.
You don't
To be
remember?
perfectly honest with you, I don't
Well,
remember.
that's the story.
Does Eleanor remember?
say
The
yes.
story as I remember was you guys, Vincent, Fred and John, and I guess you two maybe, got together, pooled your pennies, and Vince
Had an
bought that
audio
record
also?
changer, which he hooked up
Shut
to
my
the
mouth.
purple radio.
Yeah.
And
And
wired
that's
it all through the house.
And that's how we got
Patty, we already did this.
Yeah, no,
into
but
music so much, because we
Oh, that's different,
we
Patty.
bought all those.
Are you sure?
Cheesecake's one
Are
thing,
you
but
sure?
chocolate's
Gavin,
a whole different story.
Okay.
I don't know, that's what you got.
Because I can remember.
I can't wait. I saw someone bought an
My
album.
darling father,
Let me just,
Vincent had taken the whole thing apart and there were wires everywhere. And he came up and he saw that and he screeched like only he could screech. And he made Vincent put the whole thing back together again, which he did,
Yes,
because he was good at that.
he had that
was his
talent.
thing. But there were pieces of that record player all before.
Record player or the radio?
I remember.
Well, we had a
Something-
separate record player,
Something
which he had.
electronic. No, it was before electronics were out there.
Yeah, well,
does anybody remember the crystal set?
Yes, sure.
That was the first thing,
Well,
the crystal set, with the earphones.
All kids had Christmas sets, yeah.
Oh, who, what?
I think
Our
I
house
bought-
had a crystal
I
set
think I
because.
bought one for Bobby recently.
Oh, well, yeah, but I'm talking about back in
Way back.
in the 30s. No, not every kid had a crystal set. They
something
were-
wet.
That was amazing. That
You know, I got that from
we
her.
could tune in
All right,
the
how about
radio
a gin and
programs
tonic?
and
Can you do
listen to
gin
them
and
on the headphones. But I'll tell you something that I've never told to this day ever. Vincent, when he constructed that PA system,
PA
with,
system.
with the phonograph, I didn't know how it worked. And it may have been before he had the speakers. It may have been when he had it hooked up to the radio. And I wanted to hear a record. And I didn't know how to work it so that I could hear it. And I went like this with the record. I turned it and I did, with the needle on it. And I never told Vincent, because after that, when he went to play it, he got this whistle. And he was so upset. That's why I never told anybody.
You wrecked it.
I did. And he had to work like the dickens to do whatever he had to do to get rid of that whistling sound. And I just kept my mouth shut.
How does it feel? Confession is good
I
for the soul.
confess, at this stage, now that he's gone, right? I hope he doesn't get back at me
That's
from
gonna happen.
wherever he is.
He's saying, oh, so that's what happened.
I'll tell you, the other day, I lost the garage door opener. And I happened to think back, and actually, I went to some of the shops I had gone to, and I kind of thought maybe it fell out of the car. And sure enough, the first place I went to was the beer distributor, and I said, I've lost my garage door opener. He stood right up, picked it up, and gave it to me. He said, I'm surprised your garage door hasn't been opening and shutting all night, because everybody that came in here was pushing that button. So anyway, I took it home, but we couldn't get it to work right away. I said, oh God, I guess it was run over by a car or something. So I took the battery out, and Vincent would tell us how to rub the ends of the battery, and I put it back in, and as I'm squeezing it together, I said, Vincent, do your thing. It worked.
A
Beautiful
miracle already.
already.
Yeah.
There's one down, two more to go.
Well, anyways, I was telling you, that record player he had was separate from the radio. And that was when you guys bought the used 78 RPM records out of jukeboxes. And that's how we got into...
Wow.
That was the way to get them cheaply.
Yeah. And that's how we got into the big bands. In fact, I remember sitting there with the earphones on too before he hooked it up to radio and listening to Artie Shaw's Begin to Begin and Al Fitzgerald's Got a Pebble in My Shoe.
How about Benny Goodman
And,
sing?
well, I don't know whether he had that then or
That
not.
was
I don't
later.
remember. But that was on a 12-inch anyway. 12-inch 78. I'm talking about the little
At
78.
church today, I should have been playing some Benny Goodman music. Because that was his favorite. Yeah, Benny Goodman.
That would have been something.
That would have been something.
There would have been a dry eye.
And Ella Fitzgerald, wasn't she singing with Chick Webb?
Chick Webb.
I went to a funeral where they did play Frank Sinatra music. This woman loved Frank Sinatra. And they played Frank Sinatra music in the background.
I think that's great.
It was wonderful.
This was at a funeral?
At a funeral, at a wake.
No, when Sinatra was buried, the last thing they played was his theme song. What was his theme song when he
My way?
Put Your Dreams Away?
Yeah.
Put your dreams away forever. And they said it wasn't a dry house in the church. Everybody was crying. Memories.
Do you remember watching Grandpa slaughter
The lambs?
lambs that he used to
Yes, I
cut?
remember. I
And he
couldn't
had-
watch it.
And he had everybody in the neighborhood
Yeah.
watching. It was a show.
And who was in the side window there but Tucci, what's his name?
Ralph?
Ralph Tucci was up there and he says, and here's Grandpa slaughtering these lambs and they're bleeding to death there. And he says, "Hey John, are they dead yet?"
Emilio always used to be there too.
Amelia, yeah. Well,
It was a
Amelia,
show.
Amelia's
He was so good at
Joe
it.
Pillow used to come in and antagonize Pop.
I tell my grandkids now, we used to have lambs and things in the backyard. And he was just, oh, Grandma, you were so lucky.
Yeah, but they were.
killed them on Good Friday. Oh, Grandma, how could you do that?
You remember Emilio and Joe's the line that they used to give Pop? Do you need money? Are you broke? Come to the Bloodsuckers Finance Corporation. All we ask is a quart of your blood, and after you make the payments, we will release your mother from the dungeon. That was their big line I used to give Pop. Used to get a kick out of
Who were
that.
they?
Oh, they were two old neighbors.
to drive over
funny.
the grass.
He's down the middle of the block, was he? Emilio?
Yeah, well, Emilio was only 2 doors up.
Always used to teach
Joe was up in the middle.
I thought it was peanut brittle.
It's good.
I know it's good. Well,
Couldn't eat another
You
food.
really don't get
Interesting
the essence
days.
of it from
Yes,
just
they were.
that.
we used to get together and sing every once in a while. And Mom would say, "You're singing now, you're gonna cry." And she was right.
Especially if you sang on Friday. For heaven's sake, you never sang on Friday.
Why not?
Oh, no.
Because you cried the next day. You couldn't sing on Friday.
Who said that?
My mother
Mother.
Really?
never sing on Friday.
I wonder
used to
where
get
she
together
got
and
that.
sing songs.
Mom was very superstitious.
I know.
She combined her religion with superstition.
Yeah, she was always pulling on her
Oh
ear.
my
Yeah.
God, she had the horseshoe.
Put the oil and the vinegar, or the oil and the water. And then she would belt. That was her sign that that
It was
the
working.
evil spell was working, or getting rid of the evil spell.
I didn't know she was superstitious.
Oh, yeah.
What else did she do?
What else did she do?
Today I realized she was a gourmet cook.
Yeah.
She truly was a gourmet cook.
She started cooking supper and breakfast.
And everything she made had to be tasted first, especially the pasta. It had to be tasted, and then she would say,
Grandpa had those.
in her Italian, "E buon di sal," is it good of salt? And Dad would either say poco to you or something more, needed more. If it needed less, she was in big trouble.
There was never any question about what was for dinner, because she started at 1 o'clock in the afternoon with the sauce. But
But then
Me,
there were
at 1
many
o'clock, I'm not
plates,
even knowing what I'm gonna have for lunch.
there were many plates that were heaved across the room
Against
for
the
some
wall.
reason or other. Do you
Yeah.
remember those
No, I
plates?
remember a couple of them.
Dad was very volatile. There was no question about it.
And why was he heaving the plate?
Well,
Something wasn't
for
prepared.
various reasons. If he was in a bad mood, which was frequent,
Often.
especially if business was poor, forget it.
Very cautious.
He couldn't be in a good mood and have business being poor. That was, you just couldn't tolerate that. But if he would sit down to his meal at lunchtime, and some customer came in, Mom had already fried his steak or his chops or his veal cutlet, because this is the kind of lunch he
Yeah,
had.
that was his one. During the Depression.
And
Yeah.
and he had a customer come into the store, and he knew he had a customer there waiting. He would try to eat fast, and then it would get to him that he had keeping a customer waiting, and he'd push it aside and throw it aside and get up and go and take care of the customer, because you couldn't lose a customer. You could say, please wait a moment. Everybody always said he'll be out in a few minutes, but he couldn't. He was an impatient
He didn't
man.
think about closing the door.
Well, it was business, you know how
Yeah,
that is.
yeah.
Business
Well,
is-
during the Depression, that was very important.
Sure. Sometimes on Sunday,
No.
Sunday the shop used to be open till noon.
Really?
Yes. And when he closed at 1 o'clock, we had dinner. We had a big dinner, pasta or something. And it wouldn't be abnormal for somebody to be knocking on that door when we sat down to eat. Because maybe they got unexpected company and they needed fresh meat. And that's another time when he wasn't too happy. He'd open the door and he'd slice whatever they needed, you know. But he'd be wild about it because they interrupted his
But he didn't
meal.
turn them away.
Did not like his
Couldn't
meals
you just keep
interrupted.
it warm for him till he got done?
That was before microwaves.
He didn't.
Put it back in the
Cooked
oven.
meat.
He didn't like keeping warm.
He didn't like leftovers.
It had to be out of the pot, on the plate, in the stomach. That was the routine.
At 6 o'clock, you sat down to dinner. And you better be there.
Or,
Didn't,
what
He'd
happened?
stick his head out the front, the side door. and
don't
whistle.
come in.
All right? Is that pretty
Distinctive
close? Is
whistle.
that pretty close?
I too wrote a eulogy, and I mentioned that whistle.
Yeah.
Where is it, your eulogy?
No. It's really not good, so I'm not going to. But, and it's kind of repetitive, because I think when he was 75, I did something, and when they had their 50th anniversary, so you know how much, can't make changes, you can't rewrite history. So I'm just as glad I didn't get up and do anything. Because Carolyn covered a lot of what I was saying in my,
She said it's on the computer.
it's on the computer?
She said,
Oh, good, that's great.
pick it up. Terry said she'll get it for me. Grandpa used to listen to the operas on Saturday, and he would sing right along with all the operas. He knew all the Italian operas. The others, he didn't pay attention to the others.
Well, he had
No
gone,
Wagner?
he had gone to some of the German operas. He didn't listen to them, but in his youth, he had gone to them.
Like the operas.
Wagnerian
Sing
operas.
right along with him as he's chopping away, smoking away.
Do you remember the time that he and Mom, for some occasion, maybe an anniversary or something, they went to the Forest Theater to see Othello, the play, Othello. You don't remember that with Leslie Howard? Oh, I do. That was what an occasion for my mother and father to go to the theater to see a Shakespearean play, but they did it. Dad was into the arts, but he didn't have the time or the money.
And he didn't have the total education to it
Right.
either. But with what little he knew, he did his best. He did like the opera. Symphonic music, he never played. He wasn't into that. But the operas he liked. It was part of his background.
No, that was his
Like
legacy.
Enrico Caruso, nobody could beat Enrico Caruso. Of course, when all of our contemporaries started singing like Frank Sinatra, he'll never last.
I can remember once we still have a living room upstairs, and Dad was up there, and Fred was home, and we had the record player, and Fred we were playing some symphony or some classical piece on the record player. And then Fred put something by Dave Rose on,
You had a
David
choice.
Rose.
I didn't realize,
Do
I
you
don't have
remember
Radio
David
J, I have
Rose?
Sapphire.
I think it was Holiday for
Or I
Drinks
can
that
do
he
vodka
wrote.
tonic.
Well, Dad
I
got
can do
right
that.
up.
So, okay.
He says,
Anybody
well, you
else?
go from something good to the
Gin and
crap
tonic?
or something to that effect. You know?
It was a piece of work.
Yeah.
It was. Nasty, nasty.
And he
temper.
hated the swing music. His big thing was Guy Lombardo. Remember
Didn't
that?
like Bing Crosby.
Yeah.
Had no time for Bing Crosby.
And I'd go down the house when I started going with Elder. The knife used to flash all around. I had to jump over the cases and all.
Did he hit principal?
No.
Yes, he did.
He did. Strap?
My father
Strap?
hit the kids, did you say?
Yes.
Yes, he did.
Not Eleanor.
He never hit me.
No, I told you I was pampered.
So was
He
I.
never hit you? You were pampered
He
too.
didn't have to.
Well, he did.
I knew to keep my mouth shut.
We trembled. We trembled.
He wobbled me one time.
We toed the line. We
When I
went
got
straight
mad, I threw
down.
my shoe through the kitchen window
Oh,
into
well,
the yard,
you were.
and he gave it to me.
He didn't accept me until we got
I remember
married. We
one
were down
when John was
Didn't tell them we were getting
a
married.
very young
So we stopped
teenager
on our way to
before the
Florida,
war.
Yeah.
About 2
And
o'clock in the
remember
afternoon.
Tom the
Yeah.
barber that used to work with
Yeah.
Jack across the street? There was a handsome fella named
And,
Tom.
Because we had.
And he used to come in and talk to Dad.
Yeah,
And I happened to be in the store one day, there were no customers, and he came in.
that was our
And John was outside, passed outside, and so Tom said to Dad, I see your son is starting to shave.
You want a cookie?
I have one already.
Another one?
Dad went right over to the door.
How about you, honey?
John came around, he called him in here. He looked at his sideburns, he grabbed his head, he booted him with his foot, booted him right in the ass, and said, "Get upstairs." Well, because our John used to shave a razor a little bit. on
One
his
gin and tonic?
sideburns. And Tom was so
Anybody
upset
else?
because, you know, he didn't mean for the kid to get into trouble.
String,
And I was so upset, I went in the kitchen. I couldn't stand it. Poor John, he got booted in the butt for what?
No, I couldn't. be-
What did Vincent get hit for that time?
It's all right, Kevin.
What did Vincent get hit for that time?
Vincent was cleaning the store, and one of those glass plates that sits on the springs of the scale slipped out of his hands and broke. They were, well, I mean, those days, any expense was an expense. Dad didn't have the money. And he was in a mood to begin with, and he got so upset with Vincent. He screamed and yelled at Vincent, and Vincent screamed and yelled back. And from that day, for several years, I think it went on for a couple of years, they didn't talk to each other. And the house was like a battlefield.
It was a battlefield with me one time too.
Well, you were older. And
But I let
it
him
was
have
so
it.
unreasonable.
I let him have it one time. Do you remember?
Well, I had the same problem when I was,
And
and
I
I was
told-
33 years old.
And I told him, I was young though, I was really young, and I don't remember what I did or what he did. We used to have political arguments, of course, he always had the opposite view of what we always said. Because he believed Mussolini was a saint until he realized he was such a bastard. Excuse me, that's what it felt. But I told him to go to hell. We didn't talk for months, until I apologized.
Well, that's what Vincent had to do.
I had to apologize.
I don't know if it went on
He
for a
wouldn't talk
couple
to
of
me.
years, or it seemed like a couple of years if it
It was,
wasn't.
it was months.
It
He
was
wouldn't
a
talk to me.
very, very
And
tense.
it was upsetting for everybody in the family,
Yeah.
because everybody had to tread very
It was a
lightly.
very tense
It was very
household.
bad. It was
And
bad.
Vincent couldn't eat at the table.
That's what they painted
He,
the house, they felt they had more than the one.
It was
gallon.
sad. And then Mom got Mrs. Burns, remember Mrs. Burns,
Yent House.
up at the other end of the street to talk to our Vincent and get him to apologize to Dad. And it was on Father's Day. Vincent bought Dad a carton of cigarettes and apologized. And then we had peace. But it was tough,
I had to apologize.
very tough.
Say, I'm sorry, I took them out to dinner.
And then after that, Vincent was like, I won't say the golden boy, but he was the oldest son, and Dad had respect for him for being the oldest son, and he knew that Vincent had a lot of capability, engineering-wise. And then it wasn't long after that that the war came along, and that was, you know.
And he cried. Because they both left at the same time. It was Vincent and Johnny at the same time.
I remember Vince telling us after the war, if you want any war stories, Ed, that he was in one of the battles, I think it was near the Battle of the Bulge, that he was the radio man, and it was the Rail Splitters Division, right? 84th Infantry Division.
That's his screen name, his email address.
Yes.
Right. And he was with his, I think, a
Two other
lieutenant.
guys.
And the squad, or whatever the number of men involved was, the lieutenant sent them out. But they didn't know it. They were surrounded by Germans, and they were getting mowed down. And the lieutenant said, I got sucked in. He thought it was a clear way to go. And he was watching his men get killed. And Vincent was with him. He was the radio man. That was one of the war stories I won't forget.
I think they're trying to keep the birds from landing on the street, like in Russia.
It may have been the one in which he got wounded. I don't know. I remember he used to eat chocolate. A lot of the soldiers were given chocolate to eat for energy. And Vincent's complexion wasn't too good. And eating the chocolate didn't help. He really had problems with it. But that was what they gave him to eat, that's what he ate.
So when he was building his PA system, did he really have the soldering iron in the furnace to get it hot?
We had what?
Probably.
The soldering iron in the
We
furnace?
had a
Did you do it downstairs in the
gas
basement?
range down the basement
Okay.
with a couple burners that used to
They go on
use.
tour and then they come back.
And most of the parts he's got from Uncle Howard. Uncle Howard scrounged some transformers and stuff from Penn Fruit. That's where it gave him the nucleus
He did a
of the
wonderful
thing.
job, too. Parties we used to have with all his equipment outside, even when he was away. At the end of the war, when World
Yeah, we
War
had
was
a
over,
big
there was a
street
huge
party
party with
when
all
they,
of his
was
stuff
the
out there.
PE day.
He did a great job. He was good at it, that was his field. He knew what he wanted to do.
We never had that in our family. We had two older girls and then my brother Sonny,
Exactly what he was doing.
brother Dick and myself.
Even before he started getting educated in that field, he knew what he was doing. He was good.
Into that stuff.
You know the story of when he called home from Switzerland, don't you?
No.
Well, when he was on leave once,
After he was
he
wounded.
was, I think it was from Switzerland, just inside the Swiss border. The fellas were allowed to make a long distance call home. And he told us it was coming. And it came around 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. It was early in the morning. There was snow on the ground because when the phone rang, it was Vincent, and I put on boots and my coat and I flew up the street to get Carrie. I knocked and I screamed, Vincent's on the phone. She got herself down the street so that she could talk to him. A long distance call back then was really something,
deal.
especially
Europe?
during the war.
From Europe?
There weren't too many phones on the street.
Oh, there were no.
Or cars.
We got a long distance phone call.
Yeah, the Paredes didn't have a phone.
They didn't even have a phone in the house.
9 girls? That
girls,
was
no
wise.
No fooling around, you know?
How many girls are left of that 9?
I don't think.
Only Mamie and Carrie.
Of nine.
There's 2 out of 9.
2 out of 9.
And one was thrown out because she married a Filipino man. The
the
elder
oldest one.
had it,
The oldest one.
yeah.
Well, if you know Mr.
Well,
The elder had to
Her
go
two
up to
daughters?
Vincent's house when I asked Eleanor to marry me because, why don't you marry one of your own kind?
Oh, yeah.
And I went up, I told Mom, I'm going to
The
marry
only
Eleanor.
wedding he was happy about was Johnny and Francis.
Neighborhood. So I went to my mother.
Did it the right way. They asked their parents' permission. They had the wedding, you know, all that crap.
Well, I went to my mother and told her I was going to marry Eleanor.
He didn't like Helen either.
And my mother says, why don't you marry one of your own kind?
Helen was Italian, wasn't she?
Your dad didn't like, your dad didn't like
And
Helen?
how about Dolores? How about Dolores?
I don't remember about Dolores. I truly don't. I don't know what his feelings were about her.
Well, I mean, he must have
I remember,
agreed that
if you want all this, Eddie,
I'll take what I can
you
get.
know, Vincent was kind of like the black sheep during a period when he and Dad were not speaking. And I was very young, and I think we kind of felt that it was Vincent's fault for a while there, because Vincent wouldn't give in and apologize. And I remember saving my pennies to buy Christmas gifts. And that meant like going to the 5 and 10, and spending a dime for everybody.
8 handkerchiefs, right.
But I didn't have enough money to buy something for everybody, so I skipped Vincent. I remember because I still have that guilt.
We were going to do Battle of the
And I went to see my godmother on Christmas morning, and she gave me a quarter. She always did, Joe. She didn't have much money, but she would give us a quarter. And the Jewish haberdashery was open on Christmas morning. And I went in, I bought a pair of socks for my brother.
you sweet thing.
Mrs. Callahan, Jewish Mrs. Callahan, I remember.
No, this was on 16th
Oh, on
and
16th and
Snyder.
Snyder. Yes,
Hey, can I ask, what's
you're
your
right.
right
You want ice in it?
Nice, please.
Yeah. Sure, Mrs. Callahan's probably not open that day.
No, I don't think she would.
No.
Now, your godmother,
I remember how I cried.
who I met, she lived
Yes,
where?
we used to go to her house, you and the kids and Dolores and me, and then we used to go to her house up, where did she live?
69.
Joe.
Was it Upper Darby?
At the time when she was in South Philly.
No, later on.
Oh, first she lived in West Philly. I think it was around 65th Street or 64th, something like that.
Kevin, thank you very
And
much.
then she lived in Bywood, in
Yeah,
Upper
Upper
Darby.
Darby. Well, that's where we used to go, down in the basement.
Yeah, she
Everything
lived
was
in
down in the basement.
That was the kitchen.
Well, she didn't live there, but that's where they cooked and
Yeah,
ate.
well, that's great, Kevin.
The Andres did the same thing.
So I can't
They had a kitchen in the basement, she didn't cook upstairs. Heaven forbid, there should be an odor in the kitchen upstairs.
We all ate, that's why we're
They
not.
cooked, they should cook downstairs.
Remember that they used to call Vincent Flaps?
Vincent?
Vincent.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, they used to call Vincent Flaps. Why? Because when he was young, he was a kid, he wasn't heavy, and his ear stuck out. My ear sticks out. This one.
Ciletti trait.
It is.
No, that's a DeFulvio trick.
You don't remember that, Terry?
That's a DeFulvio trick.
Yeah? Well, how about Zizimort?
Because grandma,
Oh, I think
they both had big ears.
Zizimort had the ears.
Grandma had big ears and Ciletti had
Yeah,
big
but
ears.
these stuck out. You know that Irish tenor that sang at Reagan's?
Of course, you know, they keep growing.
That poor guy, I tell you. But they used to call Vincent Flaps. But then, you know, I don't know if they settled back a little bit or his hair grew or what.
Oh, well. They got used to him and they didn't see it anymore.
Right.
When
They
I
called
was
Johnny Hook,
Yeah, because of his nose.
and Fred was Head. Thought he had a big
he
head.
had a large head, big head, he's not big head.
Nothing complimentary at all, huh?
No, they didn't do that.
Well,
But everybody in the neighborhood had a name,
Yeah.
What's your name?
and none of them complimentary.
What do they call you? You don't even know?
She knows.
When I was young, yeah.
Yeah.
What did they call you, though? Tell me for the first time.
I can't remember the dialect, but it had something to do with pea pants.
Oh, wonder you forgot it.
Pichayette, Pichayon,
Yeah,
Pichayon.
yeah.
She was called the same thing.
I was going to say,
What were you called? Sorry.
when I was little,
Pushayon she was.
I mean, we all were actually. We were not, I was a girl, I was not allowed to ride a bicycle, not allowed to get on skates, not allowed to do anything.
Well, none of you could get on skates. I never understood that. He never had a pair of
Brother
skates.
John was the only one, and he did it
Well, I
on the
went down to
slide.
Aunt
was
Annie's
defiant.
house one afternoon, and Rosalie had skates and all that. She said, I'd love to learn how to skate. So they get me on the damn skates, put me up against the wall, and I went down towards the street, fell and sprained my wrist.
Of course. Never
Take them skates
failed.
off quick, please.
Went home that night, my wrist was hurting, And the old lady, what was her,
Leroy?
See what I said?
Tiazi. No, grandpa's, the dad's aunt.
Say good luck.
Her, she came over and she beat up some egg whites, and all this, and she put it on my wrist and she wrapped it. And in comes my father. And he finds out what's going on. He yelled and he howled, I told you not to get on those GTs guys. Couldn't get on a bicycle. To this day, I don't know how to ride a bicycle.
Really?
I could get on the handlebar with a boy,
Why?
which I did. That I don't know whether he knew about because they used to meet me with the excuse of going to the library.
What was this?
Francis
DeMarco?
DeMarco,
Well,
he had a thing for me.
Even she didn't know that.
Yeah, a couple of the guys did that. I used to start walking, I'm going to the library, okay. You know, it was the 24th and Britain or wherever the heck that was, it was quite a walk. And then they would come along and put me on the handlebar of the bike and take me to the library. But I had to bring a book home.
certainly glad this is coming out.
I was not allowed to date, not allowed to go to any dances, but I could stand on the corner with all the boys. Because he was right there.
Well, they were probably your brothers, huh?
They were all there.
A lot of boys in the neighborhood.
But the neighbors didn't think too highly of that, of the two of us being on that corner with boys, all these guys around. Right out in the open there, you know?
Did they look askance at you after that?
No, thank
I remember one summer evening, and she was grown up then, she was a working woman, lady. She was standing in front of the store, and Dad was across the street talking to Jack the barber, and I was over there too. And two guys came by, and she's standing there, and they went, well, Dad got up, he says, you get the hell out of here. She must have been in her 20s. Couldn't even have somebody whistle at her.
I was not allowed. Not allowed to date.
Not allowed to date?
Not allowed to do
When did
anything.
you meet John?
I finally met my husband when I was working. Because I went on a double date with somebody else.
Was that
For some
before?
reason, he liked John, never complained about him, took to him right away, even when John came down with the hearse. Although he didn't like the hearse outside the front door.
John picked you up in a hearse?
He was just saying, can't you park that thing around
Aye.
the corner? He didn't mind John, but nobody else.
He's in the neighborhood, so they were going
Well, you lucked out then.
Well, I did like that, but I was very miserable. I did not go to my prom. I could not go to any high school dances. I was just not allowed to go
Well,
anywhere.
what did your mother say about all of
She
this?
had no
She said
control.
very little.
He was in charge.
What do you mean? He went to sleep when she was there. You mean to tell me she never...
Got
And
the
in those days, you didn't.
Ida.
rolling pin?
You didn't dare
In his
contradict him.
No?
Just had to take
Was
it.
he dangerous?
I was
actually?
miserable. He could have been dangerous.
You think
He
so?
was standing behind the door one time.
I mean,
with a
there was
cleaver.
like 9
He was
of
standing
you.
behind the door one time with a cleaver because I was out with a
Oh
guy.
my God, he was
True.
dangerous.
One time he
True,
came,
Eleanor?
I couldn't go inside the house with Eleanor on the doorstep outside.
She loves them so
And then when we
much,
got
I can't
married,
show
we
her.
went
One
down
guy,
and
he
we were
could
out
be
at 3
turned over
o'clock.
his grave.
And
He should.
one time he came home late and he went to the store and got his little revolver
So
out.
then he said,
And Mom and I
"Does he
stopped him.
friends?" I said, Dad, you're always my friend. I don't hold anything against you.
Not that he would use it, but it was just so angry.
What? When?
Want regular?
One night she came home late from a date.
I'm very fine with the soda.
I
that the
defied
nail?
him. I defied him.
Nail
But I
in the
wanted to
door,
take-
eh?
Not often, very infrequently.
The bars
He was
across the
standing there
door.
with a gun in his hand.
When she was dating a lieutenant
He and
in
his,
the
he and mom stopped him.
war.
He was,
Uncle Eddie?
Yes.
He's a
Slide over
brutal
to your
man.
left.
Here, there's plenty.
Well, you wanna get in on this?
I just want to move the chair, and I don't want to hit Uncle Eddie.
We're reminiscing about the good old days.
Well, we had some good old days.
We had some good times. Not
Well,
all,
there was
not many.
a lot of music, a lot of singing.
Except on Friday.
And the next day
And
you'll
God
cry.
bless Fred, because we had a lot of laughter thanks to Fred.
And the next day you cried. Remember?
Only if it was Friday.
What did Fred do? That was,
Well, Fred was a more passive person than John or Vince. And
He wasn't as emotional.
yeah, he took his time at the dinner table, and
He
he
ate
savored
everything.
every bite that went into his mouth, and Dad loved that. You know, the fact that he didn't.
That and all.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And what happened to his colon?
I don't know his personality was different. I think maybe he was a little more Di Fulvio than Ciletti.
He's like my Bob.
I know Uncle Joe used to come and he'd give Dad, you know, he wouldn't take any crap from Dad.
Lived in A&E.
No, the Di Fulvios, they came back at him, but they made him laugh because they did it in a humorous way, not in a mean way.
My daddy used to come by her meet,
And we always-
Mosley and Peggy.
We always had somebody in the house,
Boarding.
part of the family. We had,
We always had a
I
shop.
don't remember Smigline, but I understand that she spent time with Mom and Dad when they first got married. That's his
I believe so.
sister.
I believe they did.
And then his younger brother, Sylvester, he was there when I was a kid growing up. He lived with us, and we were 6 kids, and my uncle and my mom and dad in that house. And then later on,
Joe?
the 2 that came from Italy,
Uncle Joe, how about Uncle Joe?
Uncle Joe and his son Salvatore,
It was always a
they
family.
lived in the house.
And I think
And Mom had a hell of a life, that's all I can say.
And the bedroom that they slept in was
Grandma Di
8 by
Fulvio stayed
9
with us a
foot.
little bit.
I'm
And
sorry?
these
Grandma
two,
Di Fulvio.
The middle room had 2 beds.
Oh yes, Grandma
She was with us
Fulvio
for a
stayed
while. I
with
remember her
us.
going up and down the steps.
Double
on her
beds for
backside.
3 boys. And the three-quarter beds. The
I remember Vincent,
one room.
when
Oh,
Uncle
Grandma,
Joe
little
came
room
back
was a narrow
from serving
closet.
in the army in
She was a
Hawaii,
lovely
and this
lady.
was pre-war, he came to live with us also.
Is it
And,
absolutely positively forbidden to give anything to the
I
dog?
don't know.
You may, because you can.
But you don't usually.
I don't, because then I live with her.
I know.
But you can
Oh, I
spoil
know.
her. No, that's okay. It's all right. She can be spoiled.
By
Anyway,
you.
it wasn't long
Actually, she
after
eats
Uncle
dinner.
Joe came to stay with us, and Vincent and Johnny put their heads together, and we had the PA system at that time that Vincent had constructed, and he got a record of the, not Reveille, is it Reveille what you wake up to in the
Oh,
army?
yeah.
Yeah.
Reveille. And they put that speaker right under the bed, Uncle Joe was, and put Reveille on.
was that after he came
He
back
got
from
the
the war?
hell up out of that bed, no, he's running over.
You thought he was still in the army.
So we did, you know, have some fun, some tricks. Johnny was the adventurous one. He was athletic, played ball, more so than Vincent or Fred. He got into different things outdoors. Went to CC camp, CCC? Or
CCC.
CCC,
Because he did not like school.
Civilian
He was bound to
Conservation
determine he
Corps.
was going to quit school.
No
when he
money
was
around, no
18.
They built all the bridges and built all the, we need that now.
My brother Sonny was in there when he was 15.
All the
Dropped out of
dams.
second year high
They
school.
did a marvelous job.
For World War II, how come every brother picked a different...
Well,
Vince
Vince
was
was
drafted.
drafted.
he was drafted?
John
and
enlisted.
Vince were drafted.
No,
But
John-
John
John went
went
in the
to
Navy.
the Selective Service
Yeah,
Board and
okay.
said, I want to go in the Navy. And he got to go in the Navy, but he did that on his
Because he
own.
volunteered, yeah.
You were
had your
airport, right?
choice.
Yeah.
Were
And
they
you
drafted because they
you
were
went in the
18?
Army.
Uncle Vince was Army?
Were they drafted because they were 18?
You had,
Oh no, they were a little older than
A little older
18.
than that,
It was, the war was on though.
Uh-huh.
And
41.
I think Vincent
if
had,
you're under 25 or something like that.
What?
you-
Vincent had to be, what, 20 when he went in the service? Because he was out of
Well, he
high
had
school.
graduated high school, and he had started Drexel at night. He had a
Yes.
job at a hotel as a
Right.
Working
porter.
for the Rittenhouse Hotel.
Yeah, yeah,
Uncle
yeah.
Dominic got him a job
But I
there.
don't think he was 20, Eleanor.
He was an elevator boy,
Yeah,
and he
I
was a
don't think he was
bus,
20.
not a bus boy, what
I
did
think
they
he might
call
have
bellhop.
had 1 year of night schooling at Drexel. Not much.
But I think, well, John didn't finish high school, so
No, he
that,
didn't.
yeah, he was out of school working. He was working.
He must have been
But they,
17
you
or
know, they
18
got
at the
drafted.
most. He was young. And then they drafted him at 18. They didn't draft him at 16.
No,
They drafted him.
you
at
had to
18.
sign up when you
You
were
could
18.
enlist, but they wouldn't,
Yeah,
you
you
know,
couldn't.
draft you.
Well, the war began in 41. Hey, you were born in, what, I'm not gonna mention. Vincent was born in 22, and John was born in 24. 24. So by 41, that would make him
17.
17. But they weren't drafting 17-year-olds in 41. It came a little later. They had older fellas before they had the
Kevin has a ball
18-year-olds.
upstairs.
When John's first trip back was from
Bainbridge,
Casablanca.
Maryland. Bainbridge, Maryland?
Well, that's where he went for
Yeah.
basic training.
That's where
It was
his
his home
training
base,
was.
his home court.
Vincent was at the Fort Meade, Maryland.
Maryland.
They were both in Maryland. But John's first trip back was from Casablanca. When he was in the Merchant Marine.
No,
He
the
they kept-
USS Bogue.
They kept watching, they kept watching watching for submarines.
Right.
But John went to
Said he
a
was
number of
scared.
places. He
Yes,
was in the
he did.
Pacific
His
Theater.
first trip back was from Casablanca, from that
But
area.
I think he was in the North Atlantic
On the
too.
Adriatic.
Yes, he was.
Well, then
Well, he
he
was on
was he in
convoy
the
duty.
Merchant Marines?
No, he
No.
was a sailor.
He was
He was in
on
the Navy, regular
I
Navy.
think he was in a destroyer escort.
baby aircraft carrier,
A baby
John?
aircraft carrier.
John. The USS Bogue.
What was that name again?
Bogue. Bogue.
Okay.
And it was convoy duty. They had the planes and they would go out for the submarines while the convoys were sailing across the Atlantic. And then he did end up in the
I know he was on
Pacific.
submarine duty, that I know.
Yeah,
This
well,
is
that was
talk
what they
about.
were doing.
He
Well,
was
how did
scared
Uncle
to
Vince, Uncle Vince, he fought in the Battle of the Bulge?
death. He went there
Oh,
a day or two after the battle began.
The cleanup he was doing.
He didn't go through Normandy.
No. Well, not, he
No,
wasn't
no,
a
he did
part
not,
of,
No.
not involved
part
in
of the
D-Day.
That
invasion.
was that
no.
regular D-Day, but I don't know whether he landed there eventually or whether he went in through Holland.
That was the
I don't
beachhead.
remember. I don't remember.
But he got shot in the face at the bat.
It was shrapnel.
Not the
Shrapnel.
battle. He wasn't really in the Battle of the Bulge,
He was.
but he was in the area of the battle.
He got in there about a day or two after it had started.
Because there were so many medals,
Yeah, I know.
but not knowing what all the medals were for, or even what all the medals were. But there was so many.
Probably French, Italian, German.
I don't know.
I don't think he went to Italy.
I don't think he did
No.
either.
I don't think so.
What year did you join the service?
49.
Korea.
Oh, so you were growing up when the war was on.
Yeah, well, that Second World War was over.
You graduated in high school
I
48,
graduated in
right?
48. And as I've told my
The
wife
draft
here,
was still on.
the draft was still on. And actually, that meant that I was eligible for the draft after high school.
What's that?
And I was going steady with a young lady. And we were very serious, at least I was. Don't laugh. And our plan
Unrequited
was,
love.
since I couldn't really find much work, and I wasn't interested in going to college, which was stupid, but I decided to enlist for a year. They had 1 year enlistments. When you came out of the service after a year, you stayed in the reserve for 6 years. So I figured, well, that's not too bad. I'll put in a year, come back out, be able to find some kind of work, and then this young lady and I could get married and so forth. I went away in, I guess it was January of 49, just after Christmas and New Year's. I don't think I was away for more than a month or so, and I got a Dear John letter, as they called them. And shortly after that, they discontinued the draft. I sound like Frank Sinatra, right? They canceled Halloween.
So where did you go? You were in Germany?
No, I
You
wasn't
never
in
got, you were in
Germany.
London, you were in England.
That was the first year I only went as far as Texas for basic training.
Yeah.
Spent
You
the
kept
rest
the
of my
Japs out
time-
of Texas that year.
That's the rest of my year in South Carolina. Then I came home and got discharged, went into the Air National Guard, and that was in 1950. Then the Korean War started,
Uh-huh.
and our outfit got activated. So we left the following April, April of '51, went to Spokane, Washington, became a part of the it was an air reconnaissance unit, and I spent some time there. And then I went to aircraft mechanics school in Texas, went back to Spokane after my school, and shortly thereafter the Korean War ended. But they wanted some people or some planes to go to Europe and do some new maps of Europe. This was after the First or Second World War. So they picked 3 of our planes, and I was one of the ground crews for one of the planes. So we went to England for 90 days, and that turned out to be one of the best.
But that was all?
That was it. Then I came back out, went back to Spokane,
The best time you ever had.
got discharged, and came home.
You had a good time in England.
I had a very good time in England. That's some nice people.
Now,
Where were
when
you
was
in England though?
When?
Where?
Where? I was at Lakenheath. Was not too far from Cambridge.
Okay.
So I have some pictures of Cambridge, which were very interesting. Cambridge was a nice town.
Now how about Fred?
Fred was in the Air Force.
Yeah.
He spent time, I
Did he go in
believe.
after the war was over?
Honey, what
No,
do you
no,
get
no,
a chance
no,
in
no,
The
during
war
the
was
war?
still on in Japan.
He went to some kind of a radio school in Scott Air Force Base.
Was
Illinois,
that
I
a second
believe.
thought there?
Then his unit ended up in the Philippines, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right.
And that was when the war ended. And
He also went to Japan.
He was in
that-
Japan, I
Right, when the
know.
war ended, they had no more need for his training,
And he
expertise.
got malaria.
Well, anybody that went to the Pacific just
Yeah.
about got malaria. But anyway, he went to Japan, and I think in Japan he was working in the post office there, if I'm not mistaken.
He told me a story once
In the Air
about,
Force?
Yeah, the post office for the military.
he told me a story once where he, after the war, that one of the jobs that they had to do was to break up all the radios so that they couldn't reverse engineer all the technology that they had in their radios.
I remember when I was a senior in high school, and Fred came home on leave, and of course they had the blue Air Force uniform with he had the crush cap. Oh yes,
No blue.
oh yes, Edward.
Yeah, it was a gray blue.
Oh
She
yes,
knew her uniforms, don't you
it
think?
was a bluish gray
Yeah.
dress jacket.
Yeah.
I'm
I
sorry.
remember
Get
that.
the picture.
He came to my Silver S ceremony. You know, seniors, we won, those who won the Silver S. And he came with
Okay,
Mom.
you were there.
His dad had the store open, couldn't leave the store. And he sat in the balcony at South Philadelphia High School, I believe, yeah, balcony. And those girls went nuts because there's this handsome young man with his uniform on, you know, and we were dying because we had a prom coming up and there were no fellas to take us to the prom. I don't think these girls don't have any idea what it's like for all of the young men to go to war. There
Today's
were
generation, they have no
no
idea.
men left, except those who were in defense jobs, which a lot of the women took over,
And the
or the
force.
ones that were physically unable to serve. And there were no men, no young men left. And you sat home and you did jigsaw puzzles. Remember the jigsaw
We
puzzles?
played lotto, you knit it,
And you knit and you
making hats,
wrote letters.
muffins.
And that's the way it was. And I didn't go to my prom. Because I refused to take an uncle to a prom.
I was the only one that went
Some
to
of my
prom.
girlfriends did.
What about the boys who were still in high school? Were they gone?
Well,
They wanted
they
the older
did try to foster that kind of thing, but most of those guys did go right into the service. Some of them didn't go to their prom, like
Well, Daddy didn't
he didn't
graduate
go
from
to
high
his
school.
commencement. He graduated the same year I did, because they went right in.
I finished my final
They
exam
tried
on Friday
to
at 2:30. I
foster
was
a
at Bainbridge
relationship between the senior
at
girls,
8 o'clock.
and we had, back then we had like
No
12A and 12B. 12A graduated
Yeah.
in the next February or January.
On Sunday.
The 12B
kidding.
boys, they went into service. The 12A boys,
They
some
really
of them
needed the
latched
guys.
on to some of the senior girls, but not too many.
What were you in?
I was in the Navy,
Oh, you were Navy too.
yeah. And I was sent out to the PAC, and the Japanese capitulated. So when I came back to San Francisco, back through the States, we went down through the canal and booked in Norfolk, and then went up, transferred a troop ship up to Bayonne, New Jersey. And then I had a 30-day leave. And
Then
so
were you
when
in?
then when I came back out, I reported to the Philadelphia Navy Yard, and I was a mess cook for a month. Then they shipped me
You
out
tell me there was
to
no blue
Bayonne,
uniform?
and I went over to Bremen, Germany,
Blue uniforms
and
didn't come out
we picked
Can't
up
believe
troops
that.
until
on the
later.
troop ship, and
I
I came
had-
back
I had
to
khakis in the
Philadelphia, and then I
Albatross.
was discharged.
And you were in the Air Force.
I had 14 months in.
Blue uniform
I
came
gotta
out.
go look up my
That's how I
pictures.
got my
Of course,
first
they're probably
2 years,
black and white
3 years of
pictures, so they
college.
wouldn't tell me anything.
That was good, wasn't it?
Oh, it was fine.
Well, in the early part, the uniform was those light jackets.
No,